going, everybody? Let me let me wait a little bit. Thanks for joining. I gotta turn this down because I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. Everybody hear me okay? I'm getting this like weird delay. I wonder where it's coming from. Oh, you know what? I know what it is. I have the the YouTube channel open, my own. Yeah, I was like, man, I'm hearing this delay. Okay, I can turn my speakers back up. Um, yeah, I was hearing the. Okay, yeah, you can hear me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for commenting. Much appreciated. It's funny because the live thing, like technology is so good, but live is just so stressful. I would never want to be on television doing the news. Hi from the UK. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. I'm glad that the audio is okay. I'm not using a mic. I'm just using the computer audio because last time I did that, I tried to use my studio mic, and I think it's because I use an external sound card. It never really works out too well. So there we go. We'll see. Okay, I'm gonna just make sure that nobody else is streaming because looks like my Wi-Fi is a little rough. So yeah, you know what? Go ahead and drop any questions in the chat, and I'll go back over them. Um, and yeah, and we'll dive in. I've got some announcements. I mean, some people can watch this a little bit later too. Um, I mean, nothing really too big, but I just it was Sunday afternoon. It's like pouring rain here, and I thought maybe we'd hop on and chat. I've got some. I get a couple common questions that come in through email, and so maybe I'll try to tackle some of those. Some of those will be tackled in a future um, episode, specifically when it comes to like registering your business. That's something that is like the number one question I get, like especially Americans getting an LLC or that kind of stuff. And so we're going to hopefully tackle that in a future episode. I'm going to talk to a lawyer ahead of time, but hopefully we can get that all taken care of. Hey, Larry, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, everyone. A couple announcements, and let me know if there's any issues with sound or anything. I'll keep an eye in the chat here. But a couple announcements, some upcoming episodes. If you're in tune with the YouTube channel or you're in tune with the podcast, there's a couple episodes coming up. We're doing an episode on mastering. I believe that comes out this week, as in a couple days. So we're talking about mastering as it relates to independent record labels, as with all of the Industry Insider episodes, are how does it relate to record labels? And so this is kind of a big question is if you're trying to encourage your artists to be prolific and to release a lot of music, you always hit that financial wall of mastering. Like, do I have to pay to get it mastered? And so we tackle that question. So we talk about mastering from a record label standpoint. So that comes out in a couple of days on the podcast and on YouTube as well. There's also another thing I'm really excited to talk to you guys about. Hello, thanks for joining in. I'm also researching something. Somebody told me recently about this company called Playlist Supply. And so I've been chatting with them. They actually reached out to me. So I've been chatting with them to see if we can get like a discount for our community. But it's an interesting way to like pitch your music to curators. They provide this like database of all of the Spotify curators, and it's a live database. So it's constantly uploading of all the playlists and who owns the playlist, what their email, their social media is, and how many followers they have, and how often it's updated when it was most recently updated. So it's a really cool platform that somebody in our community told me about. And then it just so happened that they reached out to me and wanted to, connect with our community. So, yeah, so I'm kind of interested to see how that works out and if they can offer us a discount. I'm going to get in there and try it out. I've looked at it, I've seen a demo, but I'm going to get in there and try it out and see if it's legit. I like it because it's not payola, right? You're just paying for data. You're not paying for plays or even necessarily paying for listens. So that's called Playlist Supply, and there'll be more information about that coming soon because I think it's I think it's a cool tool, but I'm not 100%. Another interesting thing is summer. I usually like to kind of take the summer off, although I don't take the summer off, but I like to not have the pressures of like a weekly episode. But I do like to record episodes for the fall. So this summer we're going to be kind of tackling some like 10 frequently asked questions, like mega questions that relate to record labels, some kind of like big philosophical stuff and some more practical stuff. And we'll dive in on one episode each week for 10 weeks. So there won't be any interviews this summer, but it's still going to be good. And when I say summer, I mean us people here on this side of the equator. But you know what I mean. Yeah. So what else? Oh yes, it can't be any worse than Submit Hub. You know, it's funny you say that because we talked a little bit about Submit Hub. It is completely different than Submit Hub. And yeah, my thoughts on Submit Hub. I mean, I don't try to blame them too much because I think it's not the platform's fault when it comes to Submit Hub. To me, um, it's I don't know. It just creates this collision where, like, I recently used Submit Hub to submit a track, and I only submitted to like 4 or 5 people, and I got declines from all of them except for one. But then that one ended up turning into a decline a few days later, which I thought was kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, Submit Hub, I think just I don't really blame the platform. It's just it creates this problem where you have to pick the right curators, you pay money, and they say no. And it's not necessarily there's anything wrong with your music, but they kind of feel like they have to say there's something wrong with your music as to provide a reason why. Whereas I like to just send an email, and if you're not interested, don't respond to me. You know what I mean? So yeah, playlist supply I think will be better than Submit Hub in that regard. Let's see some of the other things coming in. Um, okay, so records and bands, great logo. That's really cool. I'm just starting to work with my brother's band to get his next EP out a bit further, so felt right to finally start a tiny label. Everybody, well, 95% of people start labels because they want to help their own band, they want to help their friend's band, or they want to just help a band that they believe in. That was my case. It started with my band, then it started with my friend's band. So I've done all three. And then the third was I went to a show and I heard a local band. I'm like, we need to make a record for these guys. We need to get it out. So that's a great way to start a label, by the way. Um, going very slowly, but any beginner tips would be appreciated. Well, um, other record labels, by the way, is full of articles. And I mean, the beginner tip, we just did an episode last week, right? We did 10 steps to releasing a new record. But anyway, this summer, there'll be lots of beginner tips. My website, otherrecordlabels.com, has a bunch of beginner tips. The book, 30 days, that's like one tip a day, basically. So yeah, lots of beginner tips out there. You know, the problem with beginner tips is like, what's the most important one? There isn't really. It's like one beginner tip. There's like 1,000 beginner tips. Here's how I like to think of success. Success is like 100%. And 100%, it's not like two things that equal 50% each or one thing that equals 100%. It's 100 things that equal 1% each. So that's what I think about everything in life. Sorry, I'm missing some of this stuff here. Um, okay, there's a big question here. I have to get to it. Um, yeah. Oh, look at this. This is smart. Tip number one, start. That's so true. I'll tell you, even just true today when I was thinking about hopping on this live stream, I was like, well, I got to plan it. I got to do this. I'm like, no, just turn the camera on. So yeah, start. Um, okay, let's see what Owen says here. I would be really interested to know what people do with Spotify streaming royalties when a band has already recorded the EP album. So you're putting out physical side. Do labels take a cut? So if you're a record label and you're just doing, by the way, I meant to do Q&A at the end, but I just didn't want to get it too big. There are some other things I want to talk about, so don't go anywhere. I want to talk about that vinyl thing, by the way. That article that was stirring around about how 50% of vinyl bot purchasers don't have turntables. Let's talk about that in a second. I'm calling BS on that. Okay, this is a great question though from Owen. Do labels take a cut, okay, of the streaming if you're just doing the physical side. So let's say an artist self-releases their EP. You discover them a couple weeks later, a couple months later, a couple days later, whatever, and you want to do a tape release or a vinyl release because you believe in this music, but they're going to keep streaming up. So in some cases, you could say, "Well, I'm just going to do the physical," and the band can keep streaming. I know lots of labels who do that. The artist just keeps their streaming, and the label just deals in the physical role. Sometimes a label will say, "Can you take the streaming down and we'll re-upload it, and then we'll take a cut." If the label is a little bit bigger, has a little bit more rights, a little bit more authority to say that. There was a label who I was talking to release my music, and I wanted them to just do licensing because they had a good platform for licensing, and I wanted them to do physical because they have a really big audience. But I wanted to keep my own digital, and they weren't into that because they were kind of like, well, if we're going to get people to discover you through movies and television, then we should then therefore get a right of the some of the streaming. If those people hear you on a HBO show and then go and download you or stream you on Spotify, they should get a cut, which is totally fair. So yeah. If I was doing just a physical release, I would say maybe keep your streaming. Maybe I'll do Bandcamp and not streaming services. You can. There's no rule. I guess basically what my point is, there's no rule. You could, you know, do whatever is good for you. Um, all right, all right. Oh yeah. So let's talk about this real quick, and then I'll try to. Oh yeah, interesting. You said talk about Groover. It's similar to Submit Hub, but a little bit better. Yeah, somebody told me about that too. I should check it out. Um, yeah, I should check it out because somebody was telling me about it. Maybe it was you. Um, okay, so there was an article, right, about that was all over Twitter that 50% of um, people who buy vinyl don't even own a turntable. I want to give you a couple thoughts on this so that because you all are music industry people and record label people, and when you go to dinner parties, your smug friends are going to bring this up. So I want to give you some ammo. Number one, I call him BS because, first of all, 50%, like, how'd they get such an even number? Like, that's crazy. Second of all, I didn't read the article, by the way, so I'm one of those people who are talking about something I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I didn't read the article. I just saw the headline everywhere. I'm calling BS. I'll tell you another reason. We recently had Larry from Making Vinyl on talking about Record Store Day a couple weeks ago on the podcast. And he was telling me, and they've done some extensive research to try to get the actual number of vinyl sold because the Nielsen SoundScan, which is now rebranded to something, the agencies who try to figure out how many records are sold, like, they don't know the actual number, right? So they're trying to figure out how many records are sold, and they're using some sort of calculation. They have a few retail stores that report those actual numbers, but they don't have the whole data. They fill in a lot of gaps based on the data that they have. And so I would say, like, for example, if I print 200 records, I'm printing 200 records right now at a local pressing plant. I'm going to go pick them up. I have 100 that goes to a distributor that goes to their fan club. And then 100 I sell locally here to local record stores and then just on Bandcamp. So none of those 200 records are reported to Nielsen or SoundScan. I'm not even, in this case, I didn't even get a UPC for the back of the record because it was just a limited run and I knew exactly where they were going. And so those numbers aren't reported to SoundScan. And so that's an example. That's a microcosm of a bigger thing where, you know, there's a lot of records that are actually being bought, being listened to, that aren't as part of that data. And also, we talked about in that podcast episode that nobody really, like, SoundScan will say, okay, there's 20 million records that were sold this year. But then all the pressing plants are like, well, hold on a second. Like, one pressing plant did 10 million records and they're just one of 100 pressing plants. You know what I mean? So the pressing plants know, well, hold on a second. We pressed 250 million records this year and you're saying only 20 million sold. Now, I understand not every record sells. That's one of our biggest problems here, but you know what I mean? So the number is sketchy. And even Larry said, I think in that podcast, that he asked them, like, where do you get this formula from? And they couldn't really, they couldn't really say. So anyway, so that's another reason why I don't really believe that stat. But let me just say this, even if that stat is not accurate, but still true. Even if they're like still 25% of people who buy records don't listen to them or don't have a turntable, we're okay with that. First of all, they're buying the records, so they're doing it because they love the music or they love supporting the artist. Digital is way more convenient. I know that. So I understand that people are streaming the music primarily on their phones, in their car, at their computers, wherever. But they want this artifact, and not all of them open it up and put it on the turntable like you and I do. And I'll give you an example of that. I have a record collection, maybe 200 records. It's a modest size compared to some of you probably, but it's a decent size collection. And in that collection, I have a few like test pressings and bootlegs that I don't listen to. I don't listen to either because they're valuable or they're sentimental, or I have another copy of them, or they actually are terrible sound quality. And I just like it because it's an artifact. It's a historical artifact and it means something to me. And I don't listen to it. So here I am, like a diehard music fan, a record label owner, and I have vinyl I don't listen to. So I don't, if there are kids who are buying Taylor Swift records or they're buying our records, um, I that's no big deal for me. Oh, and somebody said here where 60% of people who buy books can't read. I don't know if that's true, but I will say that's funny. But I will say um, there is a stat, and I don't know what it is, so I won't lie. But a lot of people who buy books don't finish them. A lot of people, and I also heard another stat that was like 75% of, this is totally inaccurate, but wrote 75% of people who um, own a pickup truck have never towed anything with it. So you see these big like Ford commercials, and they're like driving in the desert, towing whatever. Like most people don't even put anything in the back. So anyway, there's some little bit of fodder that you can fight back at their next dinner party when people say that the numbers aren't accurate. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, something I often struggle with is comparing myself to other labels. Yep, me too. They seem to do the same things as us, but get more engagement, and it can be really discouraging. I hear you. It often feels like we're putting things out in the world into the void and no one hears them except for our existing community members. How would you go approaching this challenge? Oh my gosh, I hear you so much. And this is first of all, I want to say this. You are not alone, even though you feel like you're alone. That's the whole point of it, right? You feel alienated. You feel like you're screaming into the void. No one's listening. And I get that. And that is, if anybody here who has tuned into the Other Record Labels podcast, starting all the way back in 2018, in the fall of 2017, I felt exactly the same way. And I was like, in fact, I've told the story before. I'll tell it again because it's funny. But there was somebody on Twitter who posted a um, a list of like 100 record labels that people should check out and people should follow. So it was like 100, 200 record labels. And this person and I followed each other on Twitter. And he didn't, or they didn't include my label in their list of labels. And I thought, what more do I got to do to be recognized? You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like I wasn't a part of this community. And so I started this podcast and then eventually Other Record Labels because of that feeling. I felt alone and alienated. I also felt like, tell me if this resonates too. I felt like there's a, yeah, look at this, who hasn't felt that in this entire community? 100%. So I felt like I was just asking people, I was always talking about myself. And by myself, I meant my label, which was my artist on my label. And so I felt like I was always just trying to promote myself. And so the one tip I can give you, other than just stick with it and put your blinders on and realize that Gap and Old Navy email their mailing list at least once a day. And they post on social media 5 times a day. And they just continue to do their thing. And they don't worry about the imposter syndrome and they don't worry about bothering their audience. But anyway, one piece of advice I will give you, other than being persistent and sticking with it, is try to figure out how, and this was what I did when I hit that wall in 2018. Try to figure out ways that you can celebrate other people and you can bring value to other people that isn't yourself and isn't the artist on your record label, and see if that creates reciprocity and see if that starts to bring up your own label. And I'll give you an example. Um, for me, even before I started this podcast, I had a YouTube channel where I went to local recording studios and did tours. And it was sponsored by my label. It was produced by my label, and it had nothing to do to promote my artists, but it it embedded me in the local music community. I met so many more people, and by the time we had another release, way more people paid attention to us because we had just spent the past year promoting all these local recording studios and producers and engineers with seemingly nothing in it for us. So there's this great story. I've never been able to find the actual story, but there was like a failing newspaper. I want to say in like Kansas City or something. If you ever can find this story, please tell me. But there was like this local newspaper that was failing, going out of business like they all were. This editor took it over, and he committed to like filling like 75 to 80% of the pages with stories about individuals within the community. And all of a sudden that newspaper blew up and sold tons of copies and all the and way more subscribers. The moral of that story is, instead of trying to shove something down somebody's throat, instead talk about them, bring them into the picture, and celebrate other people, and you earn reciprocity, and hopefully it elevates your label. So that was my strategy, was to start this podcast to meet other record labels. That's where the name came from, and to commiserate and to share thoughts. And so anyway, that's how, yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that encourages you. Let's see what Bradley said. Never stop promoting your releases. If you promoted somewhere and got some decent response there, promote again there again a month later. Yeah, I mean, that's, I agree. It's like, um, just put your just put your blinders on and keep going, pivot, try new things. Um, but at the same time, listen, this week I've been posting some things on various. I sent some emails. I did some things, and I felt like nobody was listening to me. Like, I just sometimes I feel that way, and sometimes I send a message out and people are listening. So I, sometimes I just feel like it's us or the global community just isn't listening. I don't know. Yeah, just keep pressing on. I often find myself having trouble posting on socials unless it's advertising, promoting a new release. Any tips, ideas to help fill the void in between releases? Yeah, huge, huge, huge problem. Obviously, it's easy to promote a new release when you have a test pressing, or you have the records just arrived, or if you're going to the post office and you're shipping a bunch of pre-orders, or if it's new release day and you can post the album cover. Let's hear what the community has to say about that, because that's a great question, James. And I'm not I'm not a social media expert, and you know, a part of me, I'm trying to, over the years, trying to take the value out of social media, because posting on social media, before we talk about like what should we post on social media, let's go back even further and say, why are we posting on social media? A lot of us are posting on social media because we feel pressure to do it, because everybody does that. We think that's what you do in business. But we know that there's some successful businesses that don't use social media at all, right? Like the local bakery or the local coffee shop. So for me, it's kind of like zoom out and go, what is the reward of posting on social media? Is it that they go to your link in bio, and then what? Did they click on one of your links, and then what? Is it they buy a record? So what I've tried to preach here is that the most important thing, whether you're populating social media or you have a website, is that you have like a final destination. You have a primary destination for these people to go. And what is that? So if you can answer that question first, is it to click over to your website, sign up to a mailing list, download like a free sampler, sign up to a mailing list? Is it to follow, if it's artist specific, if you're populating your social media for a specific artist, is it for people to go to Spotify and follow them on Spotify? That to me is most important. If you run a YouTube channel and you want people to subscribe to your YouTube channel, to me, you have to ask yourself, why am I posting on social media? What is my primary destination? And you might say, well, it's to sell more records, or it's to get my artists to be heard. That's a little too vague. I think it's important to be super, super specific, so that we that that gives ourselves a clear mission, and saying, okay, I think I want people to come to Bandcamp, and I think I want people to follow us on Bandcamp. And so all of a sudden, when you have a very clear goal as to why you're posting on social media, and that goal stays the same for the whole year, then that gives you a little bit of an idea about what to post on social media if you have a goal. Because a lot of us are posting on social media for FOMO. We're doing it because we think we should. And I just don't think that's good, right? That's not good business. That's not good creativity. So I'm curious what everyone else is saying. Post a little Easter eggs and snippets of new tracks. I like that. In the studio, behind the scenes stuff is the stuff that really gets me excited. So please do behind the scenes stuff. Uh, you know, remember I just talked about, and I think somebody said this: share and repost content and mutuals as well. Remember what I just talked about? What it feels like we're yelling into the void, and that I was telling you that a good way to grow your label is to earn reciprocity, is to start talking about other people and not yourself. Well, if you have nothing to talk about yourself on social media and you don't have a new release and you're thinking about something to post in between, this is a great comment here. Post some of your friends' stuff, post bands that you like, post other record labels, other people here in the community, share their stuff. And that's all, honestly, that's paying it forward. That's only going to come back and benefit you later. So if you're looking for something else to post, start blessing other people. Start blessing other people. I let my acts post stuff like shout outs and I reshare. I prefer being off camera. Same. You know, the other thing you could do is you could take the like give access to your social media to some of your artists if you trust them, like a takeover, but like a permanent takeover. You know, let them log in and maybe you and a partner or a couple other artists that you trust. I don't know. That could work. I feel like post promoting on social media is a lost cause unless you have a fan base. I kind of feel that way too, because otherwise you're just promoting to people who already follow you and not actually growing. So my strategy with social media, because I kind of agree with this, my strategy is I um, I use it as just like one of the many things I do. So, for example, I posted this live and I decided this morning I was going to go live. And so I posted it on our website, on our .com, on the, you can go to otherrecordlabels.com and the top banner, it's there. On our YouTube channel where we have subscribers, it was the featured video for returning subscribers and new subscribers. It was the featured video. I posted it on Twitter. And then on my other social media account, I retweeted that. I posted it as a story on Instagram and a post on Instagram. And then I sent it out to 25,000 people on our mailing list. And so that to me, I thought was kind of interesting. Like that's an example of like, you know, I'm just using all of these outlets and I could have also sent it out to LinkedIn and stuff, but I kind of ran out of time. But I don't think too much about Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Not saying that there aren't people out there who have got it figured out, but for me, I just use it as like free access to advertise. If it works, I just try to do it. You know what I mean? I hope that's helpful. I want to get off the topic of social media. I hate it. um, okay. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything here. Um, yeah, this is a cool idea. My plan is to get local underground bands onto my podcast to help promote them, and one day get them to contribute a track for a compilation. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a great thing is that like give someone. Okay, I heard someone say this yesterday. Um, you have to make a deposit before you can make a withdrawal. And that's pretty good advice for us as business owners. And we're not just talking about social media, but talking about our whole business, right? If you want people to give you money, it's almost like you have to give them something first. And this is hard for any of you out there with the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. But if we can give and give and give, then hopefully when we need to go make a withdrawal, we've deposited so much that we can do that. So I agree with that. Totally agree with that. Hold on, James. I've just got to. Um, Larry's here because of a YouTube notification. Love it. Um, Yeah, James. So if you're talking instead of a record label, you're talking about an artist, like what do you post on social media? If you're an artist in between albums or in between releases, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. And I take pictures of the studio. It all just depends on how like intimate you want to get. I don't post family photos. I don't post vacation photos on my artist social media page. Everything is music related. um, so I try to stick to that, and I end up posting about once a week. It's okay. Here's the thing: if you go away and you don't post anything for a while, that's okay. Like you're none of us are going to be like 100,000 influencers really on Instagram. If you go away and then you have a new album in a couple of months and you post about it, that algorithm will actually push you to the top because you haven't posted in a while. So there's kind of actually a little bit of a benefit of not posting for a while. I found. Um, Hey, Aaron. Thanks for coming. Aaron Kitchen. Great name. Okay. Um, so I wanted to talk about something else too. And before I lose any of you guys, I want some feedback too. I'm thinking about doing a membership community. There's going to be like two tiers. There's going to be like a membership community for and this is different than our Facebook group. And if you're not part of our Facebook group, um, then please join our Facebook group. But I'm thinking this fall about launching a membership community where it's like a very intimate group, like a small group of people. And there's going to be two groups. There's going to be like people who are just starting a record label or who haven't started one yet. And then another group of people who are maybe a little bit further on in their label journey. So who have maybe 10 or more releases or been in business for a year or more. And their discussions and issues are maybe a little bit more advanced or at a different stage than the other group. So two little private groups, and we kind of meet monthly online, or we have like a special guest speaker. It would be a paid community, so it's like it's a little bit different than just our Facebook group. This would be something that we would meet on a regular basis and share some resources with each other. And so let me know in the comments and feel free to send me an email if you have any thoughts on that. It's something that I've been honestly trying to work through over the past 2 years. Somebody asked me about it a year ago, if it's something we could do, and I just haven't been able to crack the code yet. But I think the idea of having two groups will actually help to have like kind of a beginners and maybe an advanced group. So give me your feedback on that. And if you don't want to leave your feedback in the comments, you can email me podcast@otherrecordlabels.com. And I'd really appreciate your feedback because I'm in the process of like, working that through. And if you were part of a monthly community, what is it that you would find benefit to? Like this is in addition to the YouTube, this is in addition to the podcast. So like what types of things would benefit you? And basically what I want is I've been meeting with this guy who runs a label, great guy, and we just accidentally started meeting over Zoom once a month, and we have no agenda, and we just talk about the industry, and I share something I've discovered and he shares something, and it has been incredible. Like iron sharpens iron. It's been awesome. So that's something I want to do on a kind of an official scale. So let me know what you think about that. It'd be cool. And I'm going to take a look at the comments here. Yeah, thanks. Smaller discussions, they are very helpful. Um, yeah, community knowledge is just it's huge. It's something that you can't. I mean, it's one of these things you've heard to say. It's kind of cheesy, right? But like 1 + 1 = 3. So um, when two people put their brains together, all of a sudden this unibrain happens, and stuff gets created that you just couldn't create on your own. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Um, No, so this is not a Patreon. So this would be a private community through our website, and so it would have when you sign up, you would get access to a portal, and then there would be like a monthly Zoom link for our meetings and a guest speaker, and then all of those meetings and any workshops and training videos would be put into this portal. So it wouldn't be done through Patreon. It'd be through otherrecordlabels.com, and you would go to log into your portal, and then you can watch old meetings, or you could watch any trainings. And so, over time, that would add up, and there would be a lot more in there. So I think it'll be a limited group too. Like we'll cap it. We'll maybe set a minimum number of like 10 people, and maybe cap it at like 15 or 20 for both tiers, just to kind of keep it intimate. So yeah, but it wouldn't be a Patreon thing. Yeah, be Zoom. I think would meet over Zoom. I have a good Zoom account, so we could do a big group thing like that. It'll also be part of that as well. Would be two separate Facebook communities. I know not everyone does Facebook, but as of right now, until I can get like uh, a native chat feature in my website, for now, I think we would do two new private groups on Facebook. So if you join whatever tier you joined, there would be a group. So there'd be like 10 of us or 20 of us in a private Facebook group. So there'd be no weirdos, there'd be no spam. It would just be private conversations. So I think that would really help. Oh, come on, man. What were you doing? You were sleeping. I know it. I know it. Jay was sleeping. Um, would you break it down by location? Okay, that's a great question. That's a really great question. A community broken down by a location. You know, no, I couldn't. I couldn't do that. Not right now. Maybe one day. But I really want a lot of you, and I can't do this. If I could help in any way, I will. But I would love for you guys to create like label communities in your local region. So I live in a city of a half a million, um, and I would love to. There's how many labels are here? Well, originally there was like three labels, maybe two. Now there's probably more than I even know. And so I would love like quarterly for us to get together at a pub and just chat. And I think that's something that you should do. I can't really be involved. I can't like coordinate that in every city, but that's up to any of you. And maybe we'll do an episode on that and talk about. There was one in Portland that we talked about on the podcast about 5 years ago, and I don't know what's happened to them. But it would be really, really cool. Really cool. Just going to put Jace up there again. Yeah. So cool. Anyway, so I was just, for anyone joining late, I was just talking about a community, a paid community, a membership community. It's a private, really, really small group, two different groups. Labels who are just starting out, or people thinking about starting a label, and then a second group of people who have like 10 or more releases or been in business for a year or more, and private Facebook groups meeting monthly over Zoom to chat and to commiserate, special guest speakers that would speak to both groups, and then special training videos that would all be archived in a portal. So give me your feedback in the comments, or send me an email. That's something I'm working on for the fall. Here's the thing, and this is why I do a lot of clarity calls, and they're awesome, because when you do a YouTube video or you do a podcast episode or our courses, like, it's pretty broad, right? It covers most things, but everybody has like a very specific question that is like super weird. Like people have these like really specific questions, and it's like, oh, I could have never put that into an online course or into a YouTube video because I would have never thought of that, or it's probably not relevant to most people. But that's what a community is good for, is somebody could say, here's a problem I have. Tell me if you've ever run into this. So yeah. Okay, cool. I live on an island of 3,000. That's awesome. Also called Portland. uh, yeah, I knew it. Everyone naps on a Sunday, bud. Everyone naps. I got your record over there. Can you see it? Right there. Right there. It's beautiful. Okay. So yeah, so the community. Also, did I miss any questions, by the way? I won't keep you too long because I know a lot of you guys want to go have a nap as well, and so do I. Um, and I know like a lot of you are Americans and British, so I won't make any hockey playoff references because they'll probably fly over your heads, uh, or be disinterested. But whatever. Okay. Oh, the other thing I want to talk about before I hit another question is a lot of questions about LLCs and registering your business, and I'm meeting with a lawyer soon, and we're going to get some data on that. I can never answer those questions because they're like legal questions, and I like to bend the rules, not the law, but I like to kind of like I like to do my own thing, but I can't recommend that to you. So we're going to get a lawyer. I'm going to chat with her, and we're going to get some answers, and then I'll do an episode about that. Oh, look who it is. What time is it over there for you, bud? Okay. Have you ever heard of labels in other territories handling Bandcamp distribution so that supporters don't have to swallow large postage or import tax? I would love that. Great question. Um, yeah, great question. I would love that because, I mean, listen, I got a record coming out soon, and I got to charge $25 to ship from Canada to overseas, at least $25 US to ship. And whenever I go to buy records, it's always like the record's $25, and the shipping is $25, $30. And it's disheartening. I mean, that's not to say I'm not going to pay $50 for a record that I love. I still think it's worth it, but to give that much to shipping and not to the artist, that really sucks. So if there was a label out there that handled distribution, I think that's a really cool idea. So I'm in Canada, right? I'm in Eastern Canada. The West, like Vancouver, Calgary, that's just as expensive for me as it is to ship to LA, or even it's even almost to ship to the UK. But like, what if my label was to also distribute other local, or sorry, other labels that I like to my region? That would be kind of cool. If I don't know if Bandcamp can narrow your options like that, but that would be kind of cool. Here's what I would do though. If you're going to do that, or if you're looking for a label to do that for you, make sure you stay within the same genre, especially for you, Neil, because like you want to, like if people are coming to you or to your Bandcamp, they're coming to you because of like a certain quality of music and a certain type of music. So if you're representing other labels, or if you're going to send your releases to America, make sure it's a label that matches your aesthetic and matches your ethos. Does that make sense? And quite frankly, should match your genre as well. Um, have you ever put out an album of a band that isn't active anymore, like a re-release or a release of an album that's never been put out? Okay, I haven't. Well, I did. I did a re-release. The test pressings right there in 2012, and this artist kind of retired around the time the album had been out for a year, and I did a re-release. It did okay, but I didn't care. It's my favorite album, one of my favorite albums of all time. So if it's a passion project for you, just do it. And if there's like a 90s uh, emo record that you think deserves to be put on cassette or vinyl, and you're okay losing your shirt on it, do it. But it's going to be challenging because if the band's not on social media, if the band is not somewhere to help you, then you're swimming upstream because everybody's working against you. And the media, press, either will knowingly or unknowingly, like they subconsciously are not interested in reissues unless it's like a really, really popular reissue. But everybody likes new stuff. But for some reason, reissues, unless like the packaging is like super gorgeous or it's a big compilation, reissues are really hard. So you're kind of swimming upstream. So if you don't have the original artist to talk about it on social media or to help get behind doing some promotion, you're swimming upstream. So it has to be a passion project only. Hold on a second. Um, so I had my Facebook page banned from advertising permanently and no valid reason. My appeal was rejected. I'm sorry. I'm not a Facebook expert. I apologize. That really sucks. I have no advice for you. I have no help for you. My advice to everyone is to diversify your promotional channels so that if something goes belly up, you're only losing like a 10% of your business, right? If you have a strong following everywhere, then if one of them stops working or if you get banned, You know what I mean? If you have a massive YouTube channel and we have people in our community that have quarter million subscribers on YouTube, well, that's great. But what happens if you get hacked or you get locked out of your YouTube account? And that happens a lot. Make sure that a good portion of those quarter million subscribers have come to your website and signed up to your email address. So to your email list. So if you have a quarter million people on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, and then something bad happens or some billionaire buys that platform and tanks it, that's okay. I at least have 20% of them also on email. You know what I mean? So that sucks. I'm really sorry to hear that, but hopefully a lot of us can learn from that. And you know, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Import tax to Ireland is killing me buying U.S. records. Yep. Yeah, it's bad. Okay. Okay. Um, I think we got them. Um, yeah. Yeah, I think we got a lot there. Drop another question if you got it. But we're gonna sign off soon because I don't want to take too much of your time. But thank you all for dropping in. This has been fun. I think we'll do it again. Maybe we'll have a topic. If you joined in late and missed, I have been talking a little bit about this membership community that we might be launching in the fall. A very exclusive private community for labels, new labels, one community for new labels, and one community for a little bit more established labels. I really need to know your feedback. Some things that you would want out of that community. If you don't think you'd be interested in joining, please let me know as well. Send me an email, podcast@otherrecordlabels.com. I'd love to hear from you about that. Also, Playlist Supply, we're working out a deal with them. Hopefully, I can do a demo to show you how that works. We'll see. And we're talking about mastering. Also, there's another, speaking of playlisting, there's a great playlister called Stereo Fox who has a record label. And we have an interview with them coming out in a couple weeks as well. Oh, way back, I missed it, but somebody had mentioned distributions. One of you had mentioned distribution and physical distribution to retail stores. And I'm sorry I missed that question, but we have somebody I've been in contact with. I'm waiting to hear back. Hopefully, you're going to do an industry insider episode on the topic of retail distribution and how we, as small labels pressing small runs, some with some artists not even on tour, how we can get into it is retail distribution for us. So I'm working on an interview for that, and I hope that'll come out before the summer. So stay tuned for that. You mentioned niche labels. What are the benefits of issues with having a label that puts out various different genres? Well, this is my own preference as a music fan, is to attach myself to a brand that has kind of a minimal, simplistic, um, easy to understand aesthetic. You know what I mean? That's not to say, and it's the same thing. I'm not just talking about record labels. I'm talking about clothing brands. I'm talking about coffee shops, restaurants. I like to go to specifically an Indian restaurant with a specific vibe. But that's not to say sometimes I don't go to the grocery store and get a little bit of everything and eat there as well. So I, to me as a consumer, my brain is lazy and stupid, and I like to have compartmentalize my labels as like a jazz label, a emo label, a lo-fi chills beats label. You know what I mean? A Canadian underground cassette only hip hop label. Like I like that. I feel like it's easier for you as a label to promote yourself if you know exactly who your audience is. If you are the Walmart of music, that's just make I just think it's hard. It's hard to connect with people. Yeah, you're broadening your who your audience could be, but I'm not a fan. And honestly, you'll have to ask your peers and ask in the community because I can't really say. This is just my own preference. I do teach it. I talk a lot about niches, but that's my own preference as a music fan and as a consumer. And if I were to start another label, and I might do it down the road, I would make it so micro niche. It would be like vinyl only, lathe cuts only, jazz, a very certain type of jazz from a certain region. I don't know. That's just my preference. That's my preference. Okay, thank you for saying that. Great logo, great name as well. I would love a small community to come together with. Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you for that. I hope we can put that together over the summer and have a little community. Yeah, so anyway, thank you all for joining. I'm going to let you go now. This has been a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll do it again. And give me your feedback. And yeah, hopefully we'll do it again. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a good rest of your weekend. Or if you're already starting your week, have a good Monday and have a great week. All right.